Okay, so welcome back from the break. You're still watching the Entertainment Review here on Metro Television. Myself, Desifedi, and the ladies, Nanaya Harriet, and also Helen. We're live on Facebook, so you can join us on there. So we're getting into, our discussion, and hopefully we'll be talking to, our brother Randy Walker, who will join us as and when he comes onto our Zoom platform. But this afternoon, I want to talk about the Grammys, right? And link it up to our Ghanaian acts not getting in there, as a lot of anticipation was on there for them, and then to some other issues concerning that. So the list was released on the 10th of November. That was today's 13th, so that was Friday. And prior to that, for us as Ghanaians, we were pushing for the likes of Stonebwoy. We had seen the Stonebwoy consideration thing. Ray had also done something like that, and we're hoping that Emoji, the gospel musician, also had done something like that, and we're hoping that some of our artists, some of them would get some nods or nominations in there, but unfortunately that did not happen. And yet again, it has brought up the conversation about whether Grammy is the ultimate, whether we should focus on the Grammys or all of those things. But first and foremost, I wanted to look at the Grammy page, right, and take a look at some of the categories there. This year's Grammy included 3 new categories. That included the Best African Music Performance, and there's also the Best Global Music Album, and there is also the Best Global Music Performance, right? So I'm just looking at the classifications in all of this, and if you go to the Grammy website, you have this as 61, 62, 63, right? So this says that for new vocal or instrumental global music recordings, so there's Shadow Forces, there's Alone by Burna Boy, there's Few by Davido, there's Abundance in Millets by Falu and Gaurav Shah, there's Pashto by Bella Fleck, and there's Todo Colores, right? Mm-hmm. And then we also, okay. All right, guys, so we just had Adam pass through the studio, so we just had to say hi to Adam. Okay. Adam. Okay, come say. Okay, so that was just on the other side. Let them pass through. I would have asked him about the Grammys. I tell you. I would have asked him about the Grammys, but yeah. So these are some of the categories. And for us, we were looking at the Best African Music Performance. So Amapiano by Ashake and Olamide was nominated. City Boys by Burna Boy. Unavailable by Davido and Musa Keys. Rush by Ira Star. And Water by Tyler. These were the ones that were nominated. And for the global album, I Told Them by Burna Boy nominated. Timeless by Davido was also nominated. This Moment by Shakti was also nominated. So in all of that, there was no Ghanaian nomination in there. I've heard a lot of commentary. Of course, we all want to have a bite at it. And I think that, first and foremost, the ladies will be coming in. Hopefully, we'll talk to Randy also, who will join us via Zoom. But let us not kid ourselves and say Grammy is nothing, right? And I've said this before, and I've seen other commentaries like that it is like the World Cup of football, where the best goes there. So it's like, even let's say the CAF Champions League, that Accra to Folk and Kotoko are not part, but we cannot kid ourselves and say that, CAF Champions League is nothing, those kind of things. The Grammy is a very big award scheme that validates or that tells or that pushes your music, right? That happens. And then if you get a nomination on the Grammy, your name, some of the names I'm saying, I don't know them, but of course it gives us, you get to know them. So indeed, it is a very good platform that when you get to, it adds something to your music. But I think that at this point, as even we met the CEO of Grammy, Harvey Mason, it's not been exactly about the music, because when it comes to talent-wise and the productions we put out, well, we had some really good stuff. Stonebwoy did some good stuff. Kim Promise did some good stuff. But then there is more than that, and that is why I think that we need more plugins. We need more people to join us. We need a certain push that our counterparts are pushing that we are not able to level up. There are people in certain places who lobby. All of these things happen. But anyway, let's see if Randy is on Zoom and let's speak to him. All right. Um, hey, Randy. Good afternoon. What's good?
Hey man, how's it going? I'm keeping well. How's it going?
Yeah, we're good. Of course, it's that moment again where we've got to talk about the Grammys because before there was the anticipation for a number of our acts, hopefully to get some nominations, but yet again we did not get any. Initial reactions though, were you surprised or you thought, okay, yeah, that be how you did?
I mean, I first of all, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, and I wouldn't say I'm not surprised because interestingly, even before we go into the reasons, I think Amari got a nod of Janelle Monáe's nomination, so she could be considered as a nominee for the 65th Grammys. But having said that, I think it's over and over the period. Most of the people who come and file for some of
Okay,
these things have an expectation that when you put your stuff out there and it meets the criteria, you're obviously going to get considered and eventually get a nod in the category. And so for them, I'm sure there will be a few surprises there. But for me, knowing how, and other people knowing how the Grammy works and how the system, which, the Grammy thrives on, works, you'd understand that there needs to be a certain level of active play from a certain angle. It's like you mentioned, you did a very, very good analysis of the entire process, which tells you that it goes beyond the music, it goes beyond the production. Because if it's just that and solely that, there are people doing incredibly amazing work down here, but you need somebody to hold your hand into a setting room. It's why when the Grammy CEO came down to Ghana, people were lauding him for having reached out to some of the talent and that opening doors, which we saw. Where Ghanaian, for example, is considered at the Grammys today. There's an African music performance category, and there's African music consideration for performance and the category in itself. So there's been a lot of progress. I think if we are looking at things from the other angle, we would be better served and better satisfied as a people trying to get into a system that is ordinarily white. Because for so long, given the Black community in those communities shared their displeasures about how the Grammys have been quintessentially white without considering necessarily like a volume of the Black community out there. Over time, they knock down certain barriers to factor in some of those people, and over time, you could share that a lot of the people who won over the past few years have been Black or people who are doing incredibly amazing work from the Black community. That's a lot of progress. And again, if we're looking at things like that, I think would do ourselves sorry a lot of service, a lot of good service that is.
okay,
And but yes, I'm not too surprised that some of the artists didn't get a nod in there. I was hoping Stonebwoy, for example, would have gotten a nod because this year he made a very strong statement with his album, The Fifth Dimension. Getting Def Jam behind all of that, having to meet the Grammy CEO, executive producing and everything, and all of the other things that were part of the project, having, Grammy cheats code, as we would call it, or call her Angelique Kidjo, all the international features, the Rasses, the Stormzy's, he pretty much met the criteria that you would ordinarily look at. So having somebody like Stonebwoy miss out, could pop up a few eyes and ears because you're thinking, yeah, he could probably get a nod in there. But it's 1,001 entries they're looking at. And so no, no bad blood, no feelings whatsoever that it's
okay,
not good enough.
okay.
It just wasn't the time.
Look, Randy, looking at the ones that were nominated, right? So if you look at the best African performance, the music performance bit, the songs on there, and I just want us to do this to see if realistically any of our artists with their songs could have been in there, and any of the nominees could have been out, in place of that. So, best African music performances: I'm a Piano by Ashake and Olamide, City Boy is Burna Boy, Unavailable, Davido featuring Mutsakis, Rush by Ira Star, and Water by Tyler. These are 5 nominations. Other categories have 6. Why? Why? couldn't they have just given us one in there? But realistically, do you think that any of the songs, and if we're talking about that, that could be Stone Boy, that's Therapy, or Into the Future, or any of those songs, or Kim Promises, Terminator, could those songs realistically take out any of the songs that were nominated?
Again, Desi, I think you make a great argument about the comparisons you're making there, but it goes beyond which song is making it in and which is making it out. I think it's what meets what criteria, because just as you mentioned those songs, you could make a statement for the songs you mentioned prior to the other ones, or the former songs had a lot of global appeal, a lot of global placements, distributed by heavy global labels,
Yeah.
heavy backing followed up into some of those very powerful rooms, and you would understand why they made it there eventually. Because for Anama Piano, for example, by Shaka and Olamide, you saw the numbers they were doing. For Tyler's new song, you can see the craziness is doing all over the internet globally. It's a viral hit today. And so it's again really not a conversation about, okay, can we substitute this guy for that guy, but it's, okay, how many more songs can we put here if we were looking at the criteria we built?
Yeah.
Because if you say that, then we could make a statement for some of the artists that came from here and said, okay, yeah, these guys met, because a ton of the other people who are not even Ghanaians would have made it into that category.
True.
Because some people had smash hits that were, equally global monster hits as well. But for some reason, they didn't meet the criteria. I wouldn't say they were the category was capped at 5, because like you mentioned, some categories have 5, some have 6, some have had 8, some have less, and so it's really down to the academy as to what really makes the criteria, what's cuts it for them, and what does the work easier.
Okay. Before the ladies come, okay.
You mentioned the system.
Nana, you do, okay.
You mentioned the system that the Grammy thrives on, and in terms of nominations, I mean, over the years, it's now closer to us, and that is why I think we are feeling, because we know Diana Ross has a Lifetime Achievement Award, but has no Grammy. Nicki Minaj, no Grammy. Ariana Grande, no Grammy. Katy Perry, Sia, I mean, Miley Cyrus. These are heavy artists. They get nominations, but they don't get the award. We are not even getting the nomination. What exactly is the system? One will ask, because if they are not really getting the Grammy, then Obibeka Kwame Ahe, where do we fall?
So again, this is a very interesting one, and I say again that it's, so take it typically like you're vying for a position in your community. For example, let's break it down to Ghana. You're vying for, say, assemblyman, or you're vying for like a DC or something, or some of the positions which are not appointment based, and so you need to know certain people to hold your hands to certain rooms to make sure that you're getting the right attention, because there could be 1,001 people there who are probably doing better jobs than you are in that particular community. When push comes to shove and it's just your work under consideration, trust that about 1,001 of you can get there. But let's say the nominations or the criteria we're working with can only make room for 5 people. This is where all the math and all the science comes into play. And so whoever has close proximity to the people who call the shots and the people who make statements for some people, you need to have somebody in there that can speak for you, because you can have a great product, but if there's nobody using the product, if there's nobody advocating for the product wherever it finds itself, it probably may not be able to compete. Because again, the point you made about the Grammy being closer to us now, that's a very great point. Now we have 2 categories that are catering for the African music scene, which is brilliant. But again, you look at it from the point where there are so many players that are heavily invested in some of these things and the careers of some of these artists that wouldn't want their investments to go down the drain just like that. And so they'll be looking out, and a bit to look out for their investments, it starts to feel like, okay, there's a certain level of preference to some kind of people as opposed to some people, because you go into the details of the matters and you realize that some of these label bosses, some of these people
Yeah.
really are the people who are on these boards, and some of
Yeah.
these people are
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
rooms of power.
Yeah.
And so on one hand, it's protecting their investments. On two, it's pushing more for the people they can see and represent. And I think representation is key. If you are able to get a foot in there and have people represent you, I think it gets you closer than anything would ever get you. The
Yeah.
music is great, but if you can't get any greater representation in the room, it's
Yeah.
probably as good as.
Yeah, and that is why people will come back to the conversation that PDD actually helped in the fact that Burna Boy was able to win a Grammy because he was an executive producer on the album. But then, you know what? The Grammy released a statement on their website, and they made mention of something interesting. They said that Burna Boy is the biggest in West Africa. And also, they cited that they cited and highlighted the fact that Burna Boy has collaborations with global superstars like Ed Sheeran and Justin Bieber, so have you. And also they touched on his achievement when you talk about his number one topping in UK. You see, we come back to the topic of collaborations, and sometimes Ghanaians feel that, we are pushing our artists to the limit. You see, the Grammy, like we are talking about the system, they are highlighting these things. Now, before you came on, Desmond was showing me Tenny is yet to release an album. If you check the collaborations, mad.
Crazy.
Like moving forward, this one is like to everyone. What would you say that how should they tackle this issue of collaboration, understanding the importance of collaborating with artists outside who can influence your music some way, somehow?
Look, I mean, collaborations are great, but more so very, very potent collaborations, because yes, you can
Not
find
anyone.
somebody, not anybody, very, very potent collaborations that, speak and add more to your purpose. Because if you want to achieve something, you'd know who better to speak to or who better to move to. I think we should try as much as possible not to lose sight of what we're doing here as artists, where we find ourselves, and what makes us different, because there's an overfixation on the bigger picture so much that in the process of making the music that makes you different, you lose yourself and try to please what is globally appealing. And as it stands today, people are being awarded for being extremely different. That's why most of the time, when you look at the global music album
Yeah.
or the global performance categories, they are giving to distinctively unique people with different sounds.
Yeah.
And people will tell you, oh, yeah, it's because it sounds local. No, it's because it's different.
Okay, Randy,
Because-
please wrap up in 30 minutes for me.
30 seconds.
Hey, 30 seconds, I mean.
Right. And I think finally, just to wrap up, I think we need to be very, very honest with ourselves. I think we need to cut right into the chase. What are you looking for? Are you looking for a bigger market? Are you looking for more money from this market? Are you looking to introduce your music into this market? It doesn't end with the Grammys. It could start with a Grammy award, but it doesn't end with the Grammys. There's so much you can look beyond the plaque. It's great. It's a good cap, feather in your cap, but there's so much more getting a nomination even could do for you, or getting into like a Grammy feature or something could do for you. So I think moving forward, we should be checking what more we can get from, being a part of some of these schemes than just landing the award or a nomination, which would really end after a year or something.
All right, Randy, thank you so much. As always, when we call
Great
on you,
submission.
you respond to us. Randy Walker, an intimate host, Pundit, and all of that, and MC and all that. So we've got to wrap up.
Right,
Helen,
yes. So I feel
let me
like
take
based
your
on,
thoughts, yeah.
and okay, my thought basically, I feel that, Ghanaian musicians should not take hold themselves and laugh. You see, this is the standard, so they should take it serious. Don't say, oh, Grammy is not the mark, Grammy is not this, it is. So let's work hard and let's get there as others will. And I have a short birthday, so once she's done, then I'll take it right from it, right.
I just like the fact that he mentioned Ashaka's Amapiano. And in as much as we don't like comparison, please, no matter what you do, they'll always compare. And how Grammy cited that Burna Boy is one of the greatest artists in Africa. looking at him collaborating with other artists is all comparison.
Okay.
All right.
So our artists need to work hard. You really need to, honestly.